a stretch because actually everything comes from one source. We're part of that source. And when we turn back towards our source, we make everything sacred again. And that's something that Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita when he says that whatever you have that seems to be a material item, when you engage it in service to the Supreme, it becomes transcendentalized. And that is a metaphor that my teacher used to use, saying that if you have an iron bar and you put it in fire and you leave it there, then after some time, the iron will transform to fire. It becomes red hot. And similarly, whatever we have, body, mind, and spirit, when we reconnect it to the fire of bhakti, then it becomes transcendentalized. And that's the simple science of Krishna consciousness and of bhakti yoga. So bhakti on means to be aware of the science of how to connect everything to our original source, Krishna. And tonight I'm going to be talking about ways in which we can do what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita is yoga karmasu kaushalam. So yoga means to connect. It comes from the root word in Sanskrit yuj, which is the same thing in English as yoke. They're cognate. Karmasu comes from the word kri in Sanskrit. And kri means action or work. And kaushalam means skill. Skill in work. And it is something that Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita is one of the goals of human life. And that is to have skill in your action. Or the way he's saying it here, yoga karma sukaushalam, is that yoga is skill in action. So I'm going to tell you a story. There were two woodcutters. They were the same weight and same size approximately, and they worked together each day. And they were clearing a patch in the forest to develop a recycling center. And every day when they were chopping, one of the cutters cut faster than the other, even though they had the similar axes and they also were about the same weight and same size. One of them used to disappear every day for about an hour, but they both showed up at the same time, stopped at the same time in their work, but one of them was always faster in cutting down trees, much to the chagrin of his co-worker. So one day, the man questioned his friend, said, "How come you always cut faster than I do? We spend the same amount of time doing this. And by the way, why do you disappear every day for about an hour and come back?" And his colleague replied, "Every day I go away for an hour and I sharpen my axe." And even though they worked at the same speed, approximately, the one who sharpened his axe cut faster. So there are many things we can do, but if we employ this tenet of the Bhagavad Gita, yoga as skill in action, and we hone our edge, literally honing means sharpening, I think. I'm going to look it up so I don't just move on from that. Hold on. Smooth or sharpen, yes. It comes from Middle English, from Old English, Han, rock, or Germanic origin related to Old Norse heen. Well, that's not helpful, but it means to smooth or sharpen a blade. So I'm going to be talking metaphorically tonight about this sharpening of the edge. But before I do, I would like to see if anybody here brought a guest and would like to introduce him or her to Taga.
Yeah, hello everyone. So I invited Ishan, my friend from LA, for the first time to Bhakti on. So yes, he's welcome.
Fantastic. Welcome, Ishan.
Hare
Good to have you
Krishna.
here. Thanks for joining.
Yes, it's my pleasure.
We need more Los Angelians on this show.
I'm so glad that Tagat invited me for this.
Thanks to Taga.
Yeah.
Great, great, great. How's the weather down there today?
It's pretty sunny and bright.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we're raining up here, which is beautiful. It's a My plants love it, I can tell you that much. And I love it too. I love the rain. Okay, who else wants to introduce a guest or welcome somebody today? Let's see, I got a text.
Akanksha says, my kids are listening for the first time today.
Really? Welcome, kids. Thanks for joining.
I hope you had a good
Now it's a
trip to
family
Hawaii.
show.
Yeah.
Oh, it was wonderful. Like they don't want to come back to California. They're saying your house is too small. We want to build a bigger house there.
Yeah, now you got to get them a bigger house here. Okay.
Not happening on my dime for sure.
No pressure, but you got to get them a big house here in California. Fantastic. Thanks, Akansha. Anybody else? I see we
I'd
got.
like to welcome
Yes.
my daughter. She's indirectly listening, I can tell. She's not like actively part of the call, but she's like, oh, I've heard that in my yoga teacher training, what you were talking about.
I see.
So
Okay.
yeah, she's listening.
Nice, nice. Good to have you. Yeah, there's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam that says when there are spiritual discussions, there are three kinds of people who are affected: the speaker, the listener, and everybody else who's hanging around listening somewhere.
All the cockroaches and flies and other bees.
Everybody.
Yeah.
That's one of the benefits of the transcendental vibration. It penetrates whatever external covering there is, and it touches the spiritual soul inside. It's very powerful. Fantastic, fantastic, Sherelle. Thanks. And thanks to your colleague who's there listening in.
My daughter. Yeah.
Oh, your daughter. Okay, great. Thank you. Anybody else? Kotakarta, you look like you're on an excursion. You're in a vehicle somewhere. Who knows where? I'd have to guess because you're so intrepid.
Myself and Dvijmani Prabhu, we are on traveling Sankirtan. We are going from Seattle to Bellingham in Washington.
Bellingham. Okay. I've been to
Yes.
Bellingham. My sister used to live there and she taught at Western Washington University in Bellingham.
That's where we are going, Western
Well,
Washington.
fantastic. Thank you very much for traversing the globe and doing good for others. Great. Anybody else want to say hey or introduce somebody? Mekala, you're also in a vehicle. This is getting to be trendy nowadays.
Yes,
Are you in Santa Cruz and is it raining down there?
I am, and it is. Yes, I'm hanging out outside the grocery store here. I figured I'd grab class before I grab groceries.
Well, that's bona fide. If you're listening to Bhakti on, you can loiter anywhere you want. Excellent. Fantastic. Denise, you
Oh,
got somebody to introduce or you want to just say hey?
I want to say hey, and I'm hoping that Sherelle is feeling better. She's been ill.
Oh, I hope you're
Oh,
feeling
I
better
don't.
too, Sherelle.
Yeah, I'm okay. I had a heart attack 2 weeks ago, but I don't see it as being ill. I just take it as purification, and it's a gift. It
Wow.
has been scary at times, and yeah, the mind and body don't really like what's going on, but yeah, I see the gift. I receive it.
Well, nice to see you looking effulgent and strong. And may you heal quickly and completely.
Thank you. It's all on
Yeah.
Krishna's watch, so I'm just surrendering to what is.
Yeah. That's flexibility in the face of change is one of the most valuable talents to have. In fact, next time when I make my list for sharpening the axe, I'm going to include that and think of you.
Mm,
Thank you very
thank
much.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, it
And
was like 3:30 in the morning, and I've got all these ideas coming through about what service I want to create, and yeah, and it's like just be with this rest at the moment, and the time will come where I can sprinkle magic, I'm sure.
yeah, it's amazing how the body with some rest and right diet and so forth heals itself so nicely. Fantastic. Great. Anybody else? Yeah, Denise, I may become a Canadian soon. They
Well,
changed the
that's
laws in Canada.
awesome.
My mom's from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. I just wrote today to get her birth certificate. She was born in 1917, and all you need is your mother's birth certificate if she was born in Canada, and I could be a dual citizen. I have a
Well, maybe
Canadian passport.
you want to go to Halifax.
What about Halifax?
I said, maybe you want to go to Halifax,
Well, who wouldn't want to go to Halifax?
especially in the summertime.
Bill doesn't want to go to Halifax. Okay. All right. And we have, let's see, in the top left-hand corner, it looks like Amit's there. What do you got going on, Amit?
I was just saying, if you need pro bono legal advice, I'm a lawyer here in Alberta. So if you
Oh,
actually,
I need that because
yeah,
I only asked ChatGPT and it's giving me instruction, but I haven't heard back from our friends in Saskatoon yet. So why don't you get my information from JM and then we'll talk afterwards.
okay, sounds like a plan.
Okay.
The coincidence of everything.
What?
I said, That's wild, the coincidence of everything."
It's all unfolding right before our eyes. Okay, so I'm going to give some practical tips because I love practical tips. They're things that you can do. And I'll say a few more things from the Bhagavad Gita. Sharpening the axe. We all get the metaphor. You've heard it before, but actually doing it is quite edifying because oftentimes we are overwhelmed by the course of life, pulling us forward to the next thing and the next thing. And when we take time to sharpen our axe, then there's a way in which we feel much more competent to deal with the world. And Bhagavad Gita, as a treatise for how to live expertly, as the statement goes, yoga karmasu kaushalam. Yoga is skill in action. Then we feel much more purposeful and we tend to not feel overwhelmed. Another aspect of sharpening the axe that's in the Bhagavad Gita comes in the second chapter when Krishna talks about Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi means the intelligence. In the hierarchy of elements of our material bodies, Krishna describes how the senses, which are made of matter, they have a very subtle component to them also, just like hardware has software. And above the senses is the mind, which is called manas, and above the mind is what's called the buddhi, or the intelligence. These are all material apparati, but above all of them is us, the conscious being. It's categorically different from all these gross and subtle material tools that we've been given as part of this body, as a package. So much is made in the Bhagavad Gita about the intelligence and how to sharpen the intelligence. And in the Gita, Krishna says, Durena hyavaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya. This statement means that action done with intelligence, also known as buddhi yoga, is far superior to action done mechanically. So, I mean, in the vernacular, one person's just hacking away, and the other person steps back, reflects, and uses his or her intelligence to see what's most important and how to engage most effectively. And of course, in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is about meditation itself, otherwise known as Dhyan Yoga, which incidentally comes from the Sanskrit word dhi, which means to absorb one's thought in a particular object. So meditation, which of course comes from Latin, and the word med means to take appropriate measures. This 6th chapter on meditation, Krishna says, Udared Atmanatmanam, which means that you should elevate yourself by your mind and don't degrade yourself. And so taking time to sharpen the intellect and also to steady the mind, because the mind has what's called vrittis, or turnings. You may notice, if you do notice, that the mind's always turning from one thing to the next. And there's a way in which one can come to a steady state of mind, and this is udareratmanatmanam. When we're in a steady state of mind, we're able to deal with all circumstances in the world in a more reasonable way. In fact, there's an inverse relationship between emotion or becoming overwhelmed and overriding the mind and the intelligence because of one's base emotions and reasoning. We don't necessarily do the right things when we become emotional. Take road rage as an example. People do irrational things that get them in great trouble, right, Amit? Have you ever tried a case, somebody who had road rage? And then in the 6th chapter, Krishna also talks about something extremely practical, and he talks about what's called yukta, or regulation. This is yukta haraviharasya. He says that if you're regulated in your habits, then you become free from misery, regulating your senses. Another comes in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna introduces this idea of yajna. That's spelled Y-A-J-N with a little squiggle over it and an A, yajna. It means to do what you're doing for a higher purpose. You're doing it as an offering, not just to reap a result for yourself. And if you do your work, as an example, in sacrifice, this is the sharpest edge. You can work in the world, be effective, and most importantly, not be affected by it. So focusing the mind. And then finally, one of my favorites is where Krishna, in the Bhagavad Gita, talks about knowledge. And he says that this knowledge, and I'm switching metaphors here because that's the metaphor in the Bhagavad Gita, he calls it Jnana Agni, or Jnana Agni. Agni means fire, and Jnana means knowledge. Jnana is the same word, and it's cognate in English with the word know. I know when I was in 3rd grade and I learned the difference between N-O and K-N-O-W, I was confused for a few minutes. Had I known that it came from the word jnana in Sanskrit, that would have explained why KN means, or is pronounced no. But jnana and agni means knowledge is like fire. And when you're knowledgeable, then you burn up the results of your karma. And Of course, fire is well known to be highly useful in many, many ways. We can't live without it. So having the Jnana-Agni, that's also indispensable in the life of someone who wants to work with precision or to follow this path of yoga karma sukaushalam, which means to have skill in action. So those are a little summary just to point out that the Bhagavad Gita is very practical and it brings out these points of how to live in the world in such a way that one stays above the fray and most importantly achieves the ultimate purpose of life, which is to achieve Krishna consciousness or be conscious of our source and be reestablished in steadiness in that relationship. Okay, so now I'm going to show a few slides because it's fun, right? Let's see how they go. We'll go ahead and show the opening slide because you took so much trouble to create it. Yes, sharpen before you swing. Methods for sharpening your body, mind, and spirit. Okay. Reflect. This is the first. Reflection is important in very practical way. When we take time out, remember the man took time out to sharpen his axe. If we stop at some point during the day or during the week and go back to see what we've done and note whatever gaps there might be and then fix them, it's quite exhilarating because making improvement is fun. And oftentimes we move on from one thing to the next without going back and noticing what we've already done. I have a habit of always asking for reflections during discussions. As you'll see in this discussion, I'm going to stop at some point and ask for reflections. Whenever I give a talk somewhere, as soon as we jump in the car, I ask who's ever in the car, do you have any reflections? I also like to go back and listen to what I said. I take notes every day in a book like this. Not like this, it's actually the very book itself. It's heavy to carry around, but it's really nice to have a record. I just make notations throughout the day. Then at the end of the day, I go back and look at it. Reflecting on a year can be extremely edifying. Taking things on a quarterly basis and going back and looking, see how did I do? What did I do? Or do it the other way. What did I do and how did I do? And just looking back at it, you can see a lot of opportunities. And it's one of the ways that you become sharper. You sharpen the edge. Reflection. I'll do one more. And getting information. I've been writing a lot lately, and I keep on my desk a formula for writing. It says book writing tip. If you want to write a nonfiction book, don't focus on writing a book. Instead, focusing on gathering information, creating fresh ideas, organizing your material, dividing the material into chapters. First thing is getting information. And I was reading about a top-rate journalist the other day, and some of his colleagues were saying that he's developed the skill of collecting information more than anyone they know, research. And because he's researched a topic so thoroughly, then when he presents it, it has depth. One thing I've noticed is that oftentimes when we don't know what to do, for instance, there's a decision to make, best thing is to get more information about the situation. And one of the best ways to do that is to ask questions, try to find out more about the situation. This sharpens our ability to interact with complex situations. Instead of just guessing about how to move forward, ask more. In fact, oftentimes when people write me and I'm not sure what to answer, I realize I don't have enough information. That goes in an existential way also. And that is, if our lives seem to be bogged down or we feel overwhelmed, and I use that word a lot, there's likely a remedy through getting more information about what our purpose is and revisiting that. Because just being absorbed in the day-to-day tasks that we have and the obligations we have to fulfill will feel overwhelming unless we go back and get more information, be informed about what our ultimate purpose in life is. This is the opening sequence in the book called Srimad Bhagavatam. Sages have gathered in the forest at Naimisharanya. Interesting name. It means the place where nobody blinks. They don't blink their eyes because they don't want to miss anything. And they've gathered there and they ask this question of their speaker and facilitator, whose name is Sutta. And they want to know, out of all the information available in the world, what is the essential information that we most need? And also, what is the way in which people can act in the world so that they actually become happy? Now, there are plenty of admonitions out there about what doesn't make you happy. I mean, I can just think of, they already come to my mind, lyrics from songs. Do you have any lyrics floating around in your head about songs that talk about how, I don't know, can't buy me love, the Beatles, money can't buy me love. You know, I mean, there's lots of ways in which we note the drawbacks of this world and just trying to be happy in the environment we're in now. And of course, Bhagavad Gita goes into great detail about what really makes us happy and how we get mired in states of distress, which we can talk about, but it's definitely there. So getting more information about how the world works. For instance, if you buy a product and you're confused about how to get it going, I know it could be electronic or something like that, or even how to put something together. If all else fails, have you ever heard this? If all else fails, read the directions. You've heard that? And that's a thrust of the Bhagavad Gita also. It's the instruction manual of how to make a successful human life. So read the manual, get more information. If you find yourself in a hole, stop digging, get the directions. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. Just wander. But if you want to be happy, take time, sharpen the sword, sharpen the edge. For instance, I was just talking to someone this morning who lives in Texas, and she was saying how she has a busy life. She has 2 kids and a lot of responsibilities. But she said every day she reads 4 pages from the Bhagavad Gita. That's her habit. And I asked her how that works for her. And she said, I can't now live without it. Because after I read those 4 pages, then when I work with others, when I work with my kids, or hopefully they work with her, she has a sharpness about her, not of character, but of vision. And her intelligence is sharpened. This is an example. Take a little time to sharpen by hearing something from the instruction manual, like the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam. It gives such clarity. I've had that habit for some time, and oftentimes the mind says, "I know you're too busy. You don't have time to read." But then once I start doing it, then I realize, oh, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. And it would have been folly to walk out into the world without sharpening my intellect and being able to see through the eyes of wisdom literatures, which actually there's a phrase that goes with that. It's called Shastra Chakshus. Chakshus means to see something. And Shastra is an interesting word. It has there's a twist in the word. Sanskrit, you can do lots of different things with long and short vowels. So there's the word Shastra, which means wisdom literatures, that those that are meant to edify us, those in the instruction manuals, so that we don't get ourselves in trouble. But if you make the A short, you say Shastra instead of Shastra, then it means a, a, a weapon that can harm you. And so the implication is if we don't take to Shastra or sharpening our wit and our intelligence by hearing from the instruction manuals, the wisdom literatures, then Shastra, we somehow will be punished, meaning that we'll run into things that waylay our progress in life. So getting more information, it's one of the superpowers of humans. We can get more information. Of course, animals do it too. They look around and they figure out their environment. They try to get a little more information, mostly in the area of eating or sleeping or mating or defending. But then human beings, we can dig much deeper into the purpose of life and how to work. Good. Amit's got his hand up.
Speaking of getting more information, I have a question. So is Bhakti polytheistic or monotheistic? Because I've always wondered that. Or do you think that distinction is even important?
Yeah, it's very important. It's definitively monotheistic. And interestingly, it's mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam that the absolute is one. In fact, everything comes from one original source. And so what it's called in Sanskrit is advaya. Dvaya, cognate in English as two, duo, dua, or two, comes from this dvaya, Sanskrit. And advaya means it's not two things, it's one thing. So everything's one thing. But within that one thing, there's variety. But as far as the technical distinction between monotheism and polytheism, it's monotheistic in that it's non-dual. Everything comes from one source. So there's one divine source for everything, not more than one. And ultimately, there's no competition for the original source of everything. Thank you for the question. So the first thing,
I
yes?
just have a
Oh, yes, please, Sharelle.
yeah, the difference between it's all one energy of Krishna, but the material world is always changing and in motion and impermanent. Yet the source of all is non-changing. When you're saying earlier that everything's always in action, from my experience, in meditation, there's this stillness that's not changing.
Right. Yeah. So there are multifarious energies that come from our source. And there are different features of the Supreme. So there's a phrase which is important theologically or ontologically, which describes reality, which is that it's called achintya beda abed tattva. So bed means something that can be divided, cut. And then abed, again with the A, it means it's not cut, it's one thing. So achintya bed abed tattva, tattva means a category of things, means that the absolute truth is simultaneously one and different. And the example that's often given for this is the sun. Sun is one entity, but it has different parts. For instance, there's the sun globe and then there's the sun rays. There's also heat that comes from the sun. And the sun also causes transformation. For instance, when it touches the water of the ocean, then clouds come up. And that's another thing. That's one, it's water is one thing, but then it transforms into other things. And then the material energy, it's a category of energy, but it's also has multifarious features. Like the water turns to clouds, and then that turns to water again. And then if the temperature changes, it can turn to ice or snow. So it's one thing, but it has many different features. So this is the description in the Srimad Bhagavatam. There's one source, but that one source has multifarious energies. And so we, as parts of that whole, have the same quality as our source. Because our source is called Abhigna and Swarat, means fully conscious and fully independent. So we're minutely conscious and minutely independent. We have free will. Matter doesn't have free will. It's manipulated by conscious entities. But we, on the other hand, have volition. And at the same time, we're conscious, but we're not conscious of everything. We're conscious, for instance, of this body, barely. This is one thing Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. We live what he calls in a kshetra. This is something Denise brought up last time. Kshetra gnam shapimam vidi means we live inside, we're in a field. This body is called the field, and we're conscious of the field. Whereas the supreme consciousness is aware of all fields all at the same time. So we're part of that. So we're simultaneously one and different. And the material world is a categorically different energy from the spiritual world. So this is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita also. There's earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. 8. These are the 8 temporary material elements. Actually, they always exist, but sometimes they manifest, sometimes they're withdrawn. But above those is a superior energy, which is consciousness. And that's a topic nowadays. Scientifically, there's qualia. Okay, you can create a machine, you can create a robot, and in it, some robots are learning how to learn and doing certain things, but they don't feel, nor do they have qualia. Whereas we experience qualia, which means that we interact with various stimuli and we have an experience based on it that we're aware of because we're conscious beings, whereas a robot isn't. So the material energy and the spiritual energy are mixed in this world. Like your body and yourself, although they seem like one thing, they're actually two different things because they're categorically different energies. So this is the science of Achinta Bhed Abhed Tattva. The absolute truth is one, but we're one with, but simultaneously different from the Supreme. Great question. Thanks. Does anybody else want to make a reflection or ask a question before?
Still asking what's ether? Anybody?
What's what?
Ether.
Ether means space. Can't live without it, right? What if you lost the space key on your computer and you were just typing away? I mean, somebody can try it and see if we can understand, but space is what gives us context. We can see distinguish one thing for another. So ether is an element of the material world that gives division between one thing and the next. There she is. Welcome. Did you hear all this stuff in your teacher training course? Or is this
a little bit?
Yeah. Okay.
I've been sitting on the lounge writing my to-do list, and I'm hearing little bits and pieces. And I found it interesting how you were talking about the no versus no, KNOW versus
yes.
NO. Because as you were saying that, I was writing down on my to-do list, like part of it was practice yoga, and then I was writing in another part, practice something else. And I was like thinking about the spelling of practice with an S versus C. And I don't know if you know about this, but practice with an S, I learned this in primary school. It's like you're shooting a ball, so you're practicing netball. So it's S. Whereas practice with a C is like a therapist would use ice. So it's a practice of something, not you're practicing.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Fun with etymology, with words and so forth. It's very helpful, actually. I love that. Are you a student of words? Do you like to go into etymology? Me too. I do it
Me
all
too.
the time.
I love breaking words down and
Sometimes when I don't
turning them
know how to,
around and
yeah, she's fantastic.
I'm very interested in Sanskrit at the moment, like not just for yoga poses, but I recognize certain words you say in Sanskrit, and I'm like, oh, I've learned that in my yoga teacher training, like
Yeah.
just little things every now and then. And I wanted to share at the moment I'm doing Duolingo, learning Spanish, and I just had a realization come to me then, like, why am I doing Spanish? I should be learning Sanskrit. So I found an app to do that instead now.
Fantastic. Yeah, I was just in London last week and I went to St. Paul's Cathedral. So they gave me a day off. And there was Sir Paul Jones. He was uh, a Brit who went to India. And he was a linguist. He knew 23 languages. And he was a great scholar, sought after speaker, and so forth. And he had gone to India for some time, basically because India and England were so interconnected at the time. And he had given a talk there that shocked the Western world because there was this concept that India was backward and people were primitive and so forth. And he went there and studied Sanskrit and learned it and translated many works, including the Bhagavad Gita. And then in his talk, he said, Sanskrit is far more refined and eloquent than Latin or Greek. Now, that's very interesting because it indicates the language, a very primitive culture will be reflected in their language. But Sanskrit indicates a very highly evolved culture. It's the most refined of all languages. In fact, the word Sanskrit means refined. And when you study Sanskrit, you learn Sandhi rules. It's based on all the ways that we use our mouth to pronounce syllables. And all of them are there's such rules that it flows off your tongue uh, without getting tripped up like we do in other languages because they're ragged compared to Sanskrit. That's why when you learn Sanskrit things, it's much easier to learn them because it's metrical language. It's practically like computer language. And it's so refined in the way that you speak the language and the way the syllables meld together. That's called sandhi. That it's very easy to understand. I mean, you already have a vocabulary, so I think you know from your teacher training and so forth. So I think you'll do fine. Denise, you had your hand up.
Oh, I was going to talk about space. So you said that's why on the keyboard there's space. Himanshu, who used to go to the temple, he was a monk there. He wanted to get his grandfather's homeopathic uh, book from India updated so that it would be better. So he asked me if I could do it. So he said, "Don't worry, I'll get it typed out so that you can work on it first." So he asked somebody in India, "Can you type it out?" So he got it back. And when the book came back, typed out, um, there were no spaces or periods. And, and so I spent most of my time trying to figure out where the sentences end, putting in periods. Yeah, it was quite funny.
Wow. Yeah.
And he
Kate,
said, "Well, that's what I paid for. I paid the guy to type it. He
well,
didn't pay for
something
the
we
spaces."
don't think about that often is how things are divided into categories and ways that we can appreciate them, what to speak of language. Thank you. Okay, JM, I'm going to move on because I just realized that I've been eating up a lot of clock here. Let me go through a few more that are practical and things we can take away to keep the extra communication. This is overlooked. Sometimes people live in the same place or they're living together for their as life partners, and there's a lack of communication. Taking deliberate time to talk very deeply and to find out what the other person's thinking, how they feel, and so forth, sharpens the edge for relationships. It's one of the key ways to stay sharp. And it doesn't mean talking in the hallway on the way to work or something like that. It means deliberately taking time to discuss and talk. And also in developing relationships, as is well known in things like advertising, the more personal it is, the more effective it is. The more personal your communication is, and the more time you take and the more attention you give to others in your relationship, then the deeper the relationship is. Has noticed, going back to that advertising point, if you've ever noticed something, uh, not many people get what we call snail mail anymore. But letters do come in. And if you look at them, which one do you go for first? If you happen to get something that looks like it was personally written by somebody else, addressed by hand and with a pen or something like, you definitely open that one first. That's why so many advertisers, when they send you some junk mail, they try to imitate the look of something that's more personal. Achyuta Chaitanya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I just wanted to introduce Jordan. Uh, she came from Living Expo. This weekend we went to Living Expo, and last month she has been hearing about Ram and Sita. And 2 weeks back, she just saw Srimad Bhagavatam first canto on a street, and she just picked it up. And then yesterday, when we were doing books in Living Expo, it's the same place where Barbara also we met. So then she just saw that book and she realized she has seen it before. And she just felt that nature is just calling, and she just took Srimad Bhagavatam. So today she joined the call.
Welcome, Jordan. Very nice to have you on this call today and to hear of your story. Serendipity. Do you want to say hey?
I think she's driving.
Oh,
That is the reason.
well,
Yeah.
I don't want to distract you. Please
Yeah.
keep your eyes on the road, but keep listening if you can.
Yeah.
Great to have you here, and thank you, Achyuta Chaitanya.
Thank you. Thank you.
So communications, it's one of the unique features. Well, living beings communicate a lot. Ants communicate, and birds do. I watch them. Humans, boy, it's unlimited. We can have finesse in our communication. It can become very deep, and it's the way to sharpen our relationships, sharpen the edge. Okay, keep going, JM. Collect mentors. This is a way to be sharp and moving forward. Seek guidance from people who are better than you at something that you want to achieve. So, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. Try to find people who are better at what you're doing and smarter. And by association, by hearing from them, we advance. So this is one of the principles in Bhagavad Gita. It's very simple, but simple means oftentimes like Occam's razor is the most effective way. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita how if you want to learn about the highest truths in life, then find somebody who's lived it and who has realized it, and then try to get entrance into their circle. And he gives three ways that you do that. In the Gita, he gives these three ways to get mentorship. So the first thing he says, Tadvidi pranipatena. Pranipatena means to be a little humble. If you're a know-it-all and you put your feet on the desk when somebody's talking, I saw that when I went to college. I couldn't believe it. People were really disrespecting the teacher, just the way they sat and things like that. How are you going to learn anything? Pranipat means be submissive. And pariprashnena means learn how to ask good questions. Not irrelevant, useless questions, but good questions. And sevaya, try to do something for the person out of service, because that opens his or her heart, and the contents of the teacher's heart then flow down to you. So taking advantage of mentorship is one of the best ways you can stay sharp. I do it all the time. I have a whole list of mentors that I'm always in contact with. I try to have regular contact with them every week. I schedule it in. I'll get up early in the morning if they're in another country so that I can be with them, talk to them, and whatever it is, philosophy, Sanskrit, music. I always, when I see kids who are homeschooled, I think, wow, that's great. Because I see they get the best tutors. They just talk to them. And they go to a violinist. Who's that? It was a concert violinist. And somebody else, they have, their choice of all the best mentors. So who says we can't homeschool ourselves or go find our own mentors? So that's one of the principles, the Vedic principles, is mentorship. Okay, what else we got here? Go back to basics. That's one of my favorite. If you ever feel that you're being ineffectual, or here comes the word again, overwhelmed, go back to the basics, because you always win with basics. In rudimentary learning, like for instance, in this drum called the kol that I took lessons for a long time, my teacher was always saying, start with the basic things. Don't try to move ahead. Go slow so you can go fast later. And it's very helpful to sharpen the edge by going back to what got you there in the first place. And don't think that you're an expert. Think, I need the basics. In fact, one of the winningest sports teams in history had a coach, Bear Bryant, and he'd meet with his veterans at the beginning of a new season, and he'd bring out the football and he'd hold it in front of them and say, gentlemen, this is a football. They knew what a football is, but he'd say, here's where we're starting. We're starting over. So start over every minute. Don't take things for granted. Don't think you're an expert. Go in as a beginner and say, what's the most basic thing that I can be doing in a better way? And the last slide is practice gratitude. This is an intervention like no other for giving us clarity. For instance, every sky is unique. I was just admiring the sky today. I was on a very short break, about a 30-second break, and I went out and I looked at the sky. It's so beautiful here because today it was a little rainy. It's raining now and I love it, but this afternoon it was part cloudy, and it's just the sky was brooding kind of. And I looked up at it and I thought, that's so beautiful. And I was thinking, it's unique. So if we notice the uniqueness, every person is unique. Every second, every experience we have is not like any other. And if we can practice gratitude, it's an intervention that takes us out of victimhood, out of depression and so forth. And it also breaks up gossip sessions. When people are gossiping or criticizing others behind their back, if you just show a little gratitude for the person, say, well, at least he's got nice kids or something like that, then immediately it obliterates that whole dark energy. So it's a very powerful way to stay sharp. Okay, JM, looks like we had a question on the board. Let's see if we can, and move. That's the last one. And it's so important to move because nowadays we get nailed down like we are right now to this screen. And afterwards, everyone should go take a walk, or Namchintamani can dive in the ocean back there. Chuck can run on that. He's at Stanford. He can run through the fields at Stanford. And let's see, who else has got something there? Prem Minishta can climb a tree, but you gotta move. JM, what else? Advise us what to do.
Yeah, Phil has a question. Please go ahead, Phil.
Thank you, JM. Just going back to mentors, I've been sort of advised to get a spiritual mentor. Because when I was in Krishna village, it was all at my fingertips, having to be able to talk to people, talk to them, all the Krishna people. But now I'm back home, it's sort of all online and stuff like that. So how would I, for example, Vesh, I've downloaded you and you're on my YouTube subscribe thing, so I listen to a lot of your thing. Is that how a person in my position finds a spiritual person to follow, if you understand what I'm saying?
I do, and it can be, definitely can be. I feel so close to some teachers that I've never even met.
Wow.
Because I listen to them all the time. And I think like, wow, I so appreciate this person. They're changing my life. And when you can hear from somebody who changes your life in a good way, and you're feeling like your doubts are going away, you're feeling stronger, the edge is getting sharpened, that's an indication there's one of your mentors. And
Right.
whatever way you can collect those and stay close, that's called in Sanskrit shiksha. You find somebody who's heavy. The word guru means heavy. Lagu means light. Somebody can be blown away at any second by the whims of their own mind. And guru means somebody who's already established in a practice so deeply that they're not getting knocked around. So if you get somebody like that that's taking away your doubts and making you heavier, then you've got a winner there. That's
Wow.
so nowadays, it's whatever way you can, because we're really endowed with some miraculous kind of technology. I mean, how are we even doing this now? I remember when the cell phone came out. Don't get me started. I'll start telling old stories. But when the cell phone came out, it was like a miracle. You mean you could take it with you? But now we don't even think about it. We're just talking to people. Hey, how's it going in Australia? And, we're all sitting in different places around the world. So that could be utilized. I mean, we're utilizing it right now for a spiritual purpose. So yeah, that's the way to go.
I appreciate that. I'll put you at the top of my list.
Oh, now you made my whole day, Phil. Let's stay in touch.
No, well, I'd love to. So,
Yeah,
I've been following you.
JM, he'll tell you how to contact me. I'd love to talk to you more.
Who was that? Sorry?
JM, he's
JM.
the one with a heart there and a big
He's a
smile.
good bloke.
Keeping us alive here.
Thank you.
He keeps the lights on always. Well, everybody, I tell you, it's been so nice, but the time went by so fast, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Cheryl has her hands up.
Sherelle has her hand up. Okay, it's Sherelle for the close. What's your daughter's name, Sherelle? And you're on mute. Sherelle, we can read lips, but it's better.
Sorry, it keeps doing it itself. This is Lissy, but there was a question before me in the chat, so
Okay.
I'm not sure if you want to address that as well.
Okay, I do. Go ahead, Jam. Tell me what it is.
Yeah, I believe the question is Sanskrit the original language? I think that was the question.
Is what?
Is Sanskrit the original language? Was that the question?
Oh no, that was the question that I had, but there was one here from Priyanka.
Yeah, so how to communicate with your spouse or partner?
I'm curious about your communication style with Guru Mama. What advice would you give for cultivating more harmonious relationship, romantic partner, husband or wife? Okay, we schedule time to talk, not talking in the hallway or not schedule, time when we're sitting. We do a lot of the time we're together, we're scheduling because our lives are really busy, but not that. It's deliberate time when we're not doing anything else. We're giving each other full attention, and then we talk. So we'll schedule things like that at least once a week. And then once a year, we go away for a week. And we don't do anything else except for we're there to communicate and talk. And it just because it takes time to go beneath all the layers and really figure out how the other person's feeling, how you're feeling. Even we don't even know because we're so, at least I'll admit I don't know because it's the mind and the interaction with the world is so complex. It takes time to really get to the bottom of that. So it's the most edifying of all processes for me and for my wife to just have deliberate time to talk and enough time too. It's got to be at least an hour for those kind of sessions to get deeper. I'll tell you, you guys are amazing. Thanks a lot. And we got to meet, is it Lizzie?
Yeah.
Lizzie's
So my question.
fired up. Oh, and you've got a question. We're over time. Go ahead. I'll answer in
It's
1
quick.
minute or less.
How do I join this circle?
How do you join? Well, there's a entrance fee. It's quite hefty. No, I'm just kidding. Ask Sherelle. She'll tell you how to join.
Okay.
Anyway, don't look now, but you're already in and you contributed a lot today. So you're self-effulgent. We want to have you on here. So please come regularly.
Well, I'll be at my dad's house next week, so I have to work out how to do it on my own.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, it's worth it. Definitely. And we'll all fly over there to see you guys.
cool. Yeah, you're welcome.
We'll charter a
I'm gonna come to
flight
Canada one day.
and we'll all come to Australia. Don't tempt me, I'll do it. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Oh, here's a good way to say goodbye. Up in the Himalayas, the yogis, they sit in caves, and when they come out to get roots and tubers, when they see their colleagues up there, they put their hands high in the air and they say this phrase, Hari Bol, which means keep the transcendental vibration going. It's a good way to leave this show. What do you say? 1, 2, 3. I'm doing it.
Haribol!
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 All right. See you next